LAPDCOPS.com.
I was an extra. I was not an actress. Very different. I was an extra. This was the early 60s with all the young shows I worked. Ozzie and Harriet, Mr. Novak, Patty Duke. I stood in for Patty Duke. That's what got me interested in becoming a script supervisor. The beach movies, the beach blanket bingo, up until in some of the hippie movies.
So when you were an extra, let's say in Ozzie and Harriet, did you come across Kent?
Kent, Bucky McWhirter was my friend then. I've known Kent longer than anybody else professionally. He was called Bucky.
Now, when did you join ADAM-12?
My first job was in June of 1969. Script supervisor, a better word for the job would be script continuity. I didn't supervise the script, I kept continuity, kept track of every shot, everything the camera saw. The biggest thing that people, when they think of my job, is that I matched everything. You know, if the guy walks in the house with a hat on, when you cut to the scene in the house, he should have his hat still on. Things like that, they're filmed very often weeks apart, but on screen it looks like it's continuous. So you have to make it look that way. Way before digital, before recording of any kind, I drew pictures, I wrote down everything they had on, as did wardrobe people. Prop people kept track of props, but so did I. I was like a double check on that the props were there. And the hairdo is the same. The thing that's kind of obvious or clear about my job is that, say, girls with long hair was the bane of my existence, because especially outside in the wind, was it in front of their shoulders, behind their shoulders, much less a ponytail or however it was. So I liked ADAM-12, the guys with short crew cuts. They couldn't change. I didn't deal with producers that much for openers. You know, that's not who I really dealt with very much. So I didn't deal with Jack. And Jack Webb wasn't very involved with ADAM-12. I mean, he was from The Office. You know, I knew the grips, the cameramen, the sound men, the drivers, the stand-ins, obviously the actors. I knew people that were on the set. I didn't know people in The Office. I mean, I worked for the editor, so I knew them. So Jack Webb was, of course, one of those. An Emergency, the same thing. I didn't deal with him. I actually worked on an episode of Dragnet when ADAM-12 was down for a week. And interesting. Jack Webb was unique.
Now, another part of your job also was to ride along in the tow car. Would they take the seat out?
The seat was gone, and I was laying down on the floor of the ADAM-12 car on a furniture pad. I was the script supervisor from 69, 70, and 71. I mean, that's another thing of my job, is that the script supervisor reads the lines of people that are not there. I did all those calls in the car. Mostly the call to 1 ADAM-12 or 415, code 3 or whatever. But yes, Tom's, Bill Boyette's, all of them.
And then, of course, it was dubbed in later.
Yes.
Was what on Fridays, every other Friday?
Basically, every second or third Friday. I sat up, of course, between when the cameras weren't rolling. Once they said roll it, Kent did they call the sticks, in front of his face. Then I would lay down so I wouldn't be seen. And then I was reading a script. I didn't really get car sick, but I would get, all those hours. I mean, 8, 9, 10 hours. And I would read along and make sure that Marty and Kent would, say the right lines. Occasionally they would forget something and they would say, what's my line? And I repeat it, and then they'd repeat the line. I waited for my cue, whatever the cue was. I then would do the radio call. Marty and Ken, number one, were great friends, and I got along with both of them very well. So they would kid me. There were things that they would do. They'd, turn around and say something to me or kid me. Or I remember the one time, and it really set up what I did literally the rest of my career. There was a call that came in, you probably know what this is, where it did like 3 beeps before it started. It was like an alert call that was like, really pay attention.
1 ADAM-12, 1 ADAM-12.
So Marty says to me very seriously, he says, Sidney, what would really help us just to kind of feel this thing is if you would make the noise of the beep, like go beep, beep, make that noise so that we really knew the call was important. So now I'm laying there and I do that. It absolutely breaks both of them up and they laugh. So I was so embarrassed. And for the rest of my career, anytime there was like a noise, like a doorbell, a phone ring, I said what it was. I said, phone rings. There's an explosion. I never made the noise of that, or I never pretended to make a ring, or I didn't knock. I just said, there's a knock at the door. That was the one thing, and of course, I'm sure that was Marty's doing. And, they would do things like that. The one thing, on ADAM-12, I actually got used to it. I was there so long. But as you know, police call detectives dicks.
Correct.
So me saying it was very funny. The dick called about the crime down at Elm Street. I mean, me saying that would break them up.
Now, you get to spend a lot of time with Marty and Kent, and can you tell me what their relationship was like?
Their relationship was kind of like it was in the show. I mean, Marty was the older cop that taught Kent, and it was that kind of relationship. I mean, Marty older, Kent younger. They were great friends, had fun together. They really liked and respected each other on every level, which is one of the things that made that show so special, because they were such good friends. I mean, when the cast are really good friends, it's a kind of a different feel. They're actors, they can act like it. I've done shows where actors do what they do, but they aren't hanging out outside the the show. The other thing that they would put together a gag reel. They do this with a lot of shows.
Right.
When the actors mess up or whatever happens. And to see it with Marty, and they messed up, especially Kent, messed up a lot because they have a lot of props that cops, of course, are so used to it. It looks easy to get the gun, to get the baton, to get the book out, to read the rights, to put your hat on, to be in the car. But done, someone who doesn't do it all the time, God knows if I had to do it, you're all thumbs with stuff. And they would, mess up. They'd go to pull the gun, as I say, Kent more than Marty, and he'd drop it or whatever it was. So in the gag reel, they show a lot of these, because the film was rolling. And you could see the two of them, the way they would break up with it or think it was fun or funny. There was none of this like, oh, God, what did you screw up? I've got to do it again. And I've seen other actors very much like that. One of the girls, she worked extra on the show some, and it's exactly what she said. She goes, I had no idea they were such good friends. I got it for ADAM-12. I did Emergency for a year. I was single. I wanted to do movies. I wanted to travel and all that, and I didn't need the security of having a series and working 8-9 months a year. When I was going to leave the show, people said, you're going to look back on this will be the best job you've ever left, and it kind of was true for every reason. I mean, it was a great job. The most special thing about ADAM-12 was that it was my first job, the relationship I had with the actors on that show, and everybody. I liked everybody. I mean, not all shows are fun at all, and this one was really fun. As far as work, because we only shot 3 days a week and then that extra Friday, it was easier than when I do movies that were 85 days. All of its uniqueness was because it was my first job. And back then, there were very few women on the set. It's very changed now, of course. Right. On ADAM-12 days when I started, the only jobs women did on the set, of course acted, were script girls, as we were called, wardrobe girls, and hairdressers, not makeup. Men did makeup, women did hair. So with ADAM-12, if there were no women as part of the story, there would be no other women on the set except me.
LAPDCOPS.com